Star Television.
Three points, three beautiful points. Number one, quit wanting to be somebody else. That's number one. The second thing is, quit trying to change other people. It's one of the problems we've got in the world, trying to change other people. Number three, quit judging other people. Did you know that when you speak hurtful words to other people and about other people, you actually destroy the programming of good in you? If only we would just appreciate other people the way they are. Just the way they are. You'll be amazed at how wonderful other people really are. You'll be amazed. You don't need to change your neighbor. You don't need to change your friend. You don't need to change your spouse. They're all wonderful the way they are. If only we would just appreciate other people the way they are. Just the way they are. You'll be amazed at how wonderful other people really are. You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed. If you chose to see the good in them, if you chose to see the best part of their lives. You say, what about the wrong parts? Ignore that, because you're not God. As long as you're into other people's businesses, you'll never be happy. There are those who make it their business to go into other people's business. They always have news for someone else. Guess what's going on? I mean, they are responsible for breaking news. That's their job. And they are living a frustrated life and they don't know why. Get off other people's case and you will be happy. You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed at how glorious your life will suddenly turn out just because you stop going into other people's business. Because the more you go into their business, the more you judge them. Because you judge them now, you think all kinds of thoughts about them, and they're never good enough. There's always something wrong with the other guy. So we become critical. We don't like them, and they've done nothing to us. It's interesting that a lot of times we don't like people who we have never even met, and we just have a dislike for them. You've never met them, and you don't like them. No wonder you're frustrated. No wonder you're unhappy. No wonder you're not successful. How could you just decide you don't like that fellow? He doesn't even know you. And yet you got a burden of judging him and saying things, all manner of things about him and against. You love to hear something negative about them. When you hear something negative about them, you say, yes, I know, that's true. You were not even there. The fellow who told you wasn't there. Nobody was there, and you heard it. And you loved it. You loved the story because it was good enough for you. So you can pass it on. You know what the Bible says? It says a gossip spreads a message, a story. Spreads it. It says, but a righteous man puts a stop to it. A dependable, trustworthy man stops the gossip. If you pass a gossip on, you're not trustworthy yourself. You're not trustworthy. See, that's what the Bible says. So if you keep passing the message, you're just as bad as the one who started it in the first place. So what you do is, you stop it. You put a stop to it. If the story got to you, you put a stop to it. You're not going to be a garbage can. See, you're not going to let anybody put something into you, introduce terrible stories into your life. Remember this. Remember this. You know, we can slander anybody. And when you slander others, God holds you responsible. See, we should never tell stories that make other people dislike those we're talking about. It's wrong. God never wants us to participate in that. He never wants you taking a story that causes your hearers to cultivate a dislike for someone you're talking about. Our responsibility is to give a good picture of others. You say, what if they're that bad? Well, then don't talk about it. Don't be the one to help others hate others. Don't project and propagate hate. Propagate love. Because you are the offspring of love. That's who you are. That's your message. That's what Jesus came to do. Jesus came to love us. He came to love us. Remember, one day Jesus was sitting somewhere, and the Jewish leaders and men, and I suppose the religious community, they came after a woman that they said they caught in the very act of adultery. And they chased the woman to Jesus. Thank God she had enough sense to run to Jesus. They would have killed her. And she ran to where Jesus was. And now they said to Jesus, yeah, we're so glad we're here with you now. The law of Moses says to stone her to death. What do you say? You know what they're planning? They were hoping to stone him along with her for daring to say something against the law of Moses. So they said, tempting him, the law of Moses says to stone her to death. She was caught in the very act of adultery. What do you say? And the Bible says that Jesus ignored them. He was writing on the ground. He ignored them. You know why? That's what God does when you judge others. God ignores you. The more you talk about others and complain about them, oh yeah, God, you're talking about them, God ignores you. And that's why there's no progress in your life, because God ignores you. Jesus said, I do what I see my Father do. That's what he said. And he put it in the presence. I do what I see my Father do. I do. So when Jesus ignored them, he was expressing that the Father ignored them. So the Bible says he ignored them. So they said, aren't you listening to us? We want to know from you. And finally he raised his head and he said to them, let the one who's without sin among you cast the first stone. And then he turned down again and continued writing. He ignored them again. That's what God does to those who judge others. He ignores them. So, and they were waiting for the first person to cast the first stone. And it's like, no, not me. What about you? No. And one by one, they chose not to throw the stone against at the woman. And Jesus, still ignoring them, and one by one, they turned around, walked away, feeling frustrated because not one of them had the boldness to throw the stone saying, I'm without sin. They went away and left the woman. And Jesus kept on writing till they were all gone. Then he raised his head and said, woman, no one has condemned you? She says, none, Lord. And Jesus said, I wouldn't condemn you. Go and sin no more. And there she was, delivered from the mob. But that was not all. Jesus was on his way to the cross to set this woman free from the eternal sin. Blessed be God. We can act like Jesus. He says, I won't condemn you. Go and sin no more. Which means that Jesus recognized her sin. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said, don't sin anymore. He recognized it.
Stay tuned. Pastor Chris will be right back.